Hello, everybody. So for my capstone project, I will be discussing safe spaces for LGBTQ youth and why this is important. LGBTQ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning. For my introduction, overall, I want to show support for LGBTQ youth. This will allow them to transition into their adult life with greater aspirations for the future. So I just want to demonstrate to everybody showing support for them can go a long way, which I will discuss in this presentation. So for my research method, I did literature review. My research question is, how are safe spaces defined for LGBTQ youth and why is it important? So for what is known, I first started off with suicide rates since it is quite alarming. So 25% is the percentage of LGBTQ teens who have reported having attempted suicide in the past year compared to 6% of heterosexual teens. 35% of LGBTQ teens who have reported planned suicide in the past year compared to 12% of heterosexual teens. And 40% of LGBTQ teens have reported seriously considered suicide in the past year compared to 15% of heterosexual teens. So it's about 4 times as likely each one, which is quite alarming. Also, what is known is parental support and intervention is needed for optimal development for LGBTQ youth. Throughout my research, I found that these 4 steps here were pretty vital. So talk and listen, parents who talk with and listen to their teen in a way that invites open discussion and sexual orientation can help their teen feel loved and supported. Provide support, parent who takes time to come to terms with how they feel about their teen's sexual orientation will be more able to respond calmly and use respectful language. Staying involved, parents who make an effort to know their teen's friends and know what their teen is doing can help their teen stay safe and feel cared about. And being proactive, parents can access many organizations online information to learn more about how they can support LGBTQ teens and other family members. For what is missing in the literature is what are other factors needed for a safe space besides a non-judgmental environment and how to effectively minimize bullying LGBTQ youth face. And then down below, I have disparities LGBTQ youth face and some quotes from the literature that I found. For findings, the first is correct use of preferred pronouns. So name pronouns are a concept that is fairly new and continuing to be developed and accepted. In the article, it makes such a difference. An examination of LGBTQ talk about personal gender pronouns. It suggests that gender affirming pronouns make all the difference, but in particularly when it comes to health. Transgender and gender diverse youth are part of my minority group who often experience gender-related stigma and barriers seeking or receiving healthcare services in a multitude of ways on several levels. When patients don't have a good experience, by good I mean being accepted without judgment, with healthcare industry, typically they avoid healthcare industry as a whole. So using correct pronouns is one of the most supportive behaviors that has been linked to better mental health outcomes for LGBTQ youth. And then over here on the left, I have an example of how society, per se, mocks pronouns. So it's pretty much saying that a motorcyclist who identifies as bikeless sets cycling world record. So it's saying that he picked the pronouns for his bike and he sets the world record. So this is just one way that society is, mocking pronouns. So that has a negative effect on LGBTQ youth. And then also my findings of important parental relationships, which I mentioned in the previous slide. And then for this study, the empirical research was done on LGBTQ students in GSAs, showing their level of agency before and actively participating. To conduct levels of agency, the study compared two types of schools: schools that were perceived to have a more positive outlook on LGBTQ youth versus schools that had a more negative outlook on LGBTQ youth. And then down below, I used the questions that were used in the study, A through F, and this separated into the categories of having a more positive outlook and having a more negative outlook depending on the scores. And then down below, after separating the two, the students were asked the following questions. The bottom two questions are examining either higher levels of agency or lower levels of agency. So if I were to find myself in a jam, I could think of many ways to get about. And at the present time, I am energetically pursuing my goals. So those two questions are accessing the levels of agency. So overall, schools with GSAs show a higher level of agency. Doesn't matter if they have a negative or a positive outlook. So this proves that schools with GSAs improve agencies. And then in the pink above, I have defined what agency means for this study. And then for my implications, overall, these results can grow more safe spaces in communities and schools. And what allows for a safe space for LGBTQ youth. Throughout my study, this is one thing that really stood out was non-judgmental place in people. And then a few known safe spaces that I found in my studies were GSAs in schools. And then also I did my practicum site at Nuwanu's LGBTQ Center. And then here I have the link for that. And then my resources. Thank you for watching.